What's going on, everyone? So by this point, you probably, if you've been watching the channel, have seen my video on the top 3 weapons in Capybara Go. Now, this isn't something that's going to be guaranteed forever, of course, because there's so many updates that happen in this game, but I refer to those weapons as the big 3. And with the big 3, the upgrades that we can now do are massive. With the recent additions of the new SS rings, obviously the SS system, and overall some of the changes, this is the priority that you should be going for. I'm going to go ahead and show you kind of what I've been doing for my build. The first thing you might notice if you watch a couple other videos is I've got a mythic judgment ring. This is by far the most powerful upgrade that one can obtain after the SS weapon for the big 3. The Judgment Ring just ramping up your skill damage, getting you a ton more damage, and more importantly, skill crit rate is huge. But that's not even what we're talking about today. Obviously, we want to go for the Mythic. But a lot of people have been curious and kind of wondering, what about the other rings? Well, you might notice I've actually got the other one equipped for the Sky Splitter, which is the Elenos Creed. These rings stack. Now, it's really important to remember that when you have your Judgment Ring, if you try to equip a secondary Judgment Ring, you won't be able to. Look at this, for example. If I were to go ahead and remove the Elenos Creed and try to equip, I think I have a Judgment Ring somewhere around here. Maybe I don't. But you'll just have to trust me. I thought I did for a second there, but you won't be able to equip a secondary Judgment Ring when you go ahead and have the Verdant Judgment Ring or the SS version. But you can equip a secondary SS different variant, such as the Elenos Creed. But this doesn't just apply to the Sky Splitter, which is why I refer to the big 3, because we have multiple new additional rings. Now, some of these rings are meant for counterattack based builds and things like that. But we have the Severa's Fang, which is the Whisperer version, the Elenos Creed, which I just spoke about, and the Ezra's End, which works with lightning. All of which correspond to the respective SS weapon. Ezra's End for Reaper Staff for Nashir Scepter, Severa's Fang for Whisperer / Gale Elris, and then the Elenos Creed for Sky Splitter / Aileron Sword. Pairing these rings with your Judgment Ring ramps your damage up considerably, and it's for multiple reasons, right? Previously, if you're a free-to-play player and you've just been kind of going with the standard path and progressing, and you even see it on my account or saw it on my account beforehand, you'd be running the Guardian Ring. The Guardian Ring. Not a SS, not an S at all. Not even something that necessarily ramps up your damage, just gives you a little bit of extra survivability. Now, that's not bad. Guardian Ring, there's a reason why we used it. It's because it was really easy to upgrade to Mythic, and the bonuses for other rings weren't really all that great. We didn't have that many great choices. After you got past that initial Judgment Ring, yeah, you can fill in with some other options, like the Dragon Ball Ring for Sky Splitter and some other options for different weapons, but they just didn't provide as much oomph to your build as the ones now. And so if you've been running the Guardian's Ring, for one, you're going to be changing from a non-S variant to an S variant, which is a big upgrade in of itself. Second thing is, the actual survivability component of this, yes, it's nice, but as you get deeper and deeper into the game, it gets way less valuable. Like, way less valuable. I've mentioned this many times, but damage is your biggest friend when you get later on in the game, because you end up getting one shot, which is why the Revival Cape is so powerful, and Dragon's Heart armor isn't nearly as good because of that. So, with the new additional rings, we now have a clear-cut option that truly ramps up your build to the next level, because they are specifically designed to work with your build. I've talked so much about, at least in terms of Sky Splitter, how important it is to get all the things that work with Sword Chi, Sword Energy, whatever version or translation that you want to take. And this thing completely ramps that up. And also increasing final damage, which we all know how important final damage is if you watched some of the videos or kind of done your research into the stats. Increasing that final multiplier on all the other things that you're doing is huge. But that's not all, because for the Nashir Scepter, you're getting massive lightning boosts and damage reduction. For the Whisperer, you're getting huge rage generation and more daggers, all of which fit within the build. We didn't have power-ups like this in the past. And so, yes, you should be prioritizing your Mythic Judgment Ring, 100%. But you should honestly be taking a detour to getting a legendary version of whatever double S ring you have. Now, if you can't get it to double S, you don't even bother, okay? You don't even bother, because you can't wear the Verdant Judgment Ring, which is the Judgment Ring double S, and a standard Judgment Ring. You have to upgrade that secondary Judgment Ring into one of those 3 rings that have been added to the game. But as soon as you get your legendary Judgment Ring, yes, double S it. If you're a free-to-play player and you're a new player, you should be getting, by the time you get that secondary legendary weapon, you shouldn't be too far away from getting another double S variant. And if you've been playing for a little while, well, you would be unlocking a couple double S. You should be on 4 if you've been playing every single event at this point for the martial arts tournament. If you missed 1 or 2, you'll be right where I am at, which is I'm sitting on 3 divine weapon cubes, and I don't have the last 30 to get another double S. So I'm already at 3. I'm about to get my armor, accessories, etc. to that double S variant, and I can start working on psychic attributes. So getting that secondary ring, because you can get double S upgrades when they turn legendary, is going to be huge for your progression. It's massive, guys. It is absolutely massive. The time it takes to get to a mythic ring or mythic gear piece in general is forever. But this also does, as a little side note here, because it takes so long to get mythic, you're going to want multiple judgment rings, because you need judgment rings for the double S variant judgment ring, and then you need judgment rings for the double S variant of whatever you chose, Ezra's and Elena's Creed, etc. Okay, because that's what it builds out of. So gear boxes for rings suddenly got massively more important, because now you need another S piece of gear to get to mythic. And because it takes so long, it's why you should make that detour to at least a legendary version of these rings. It's so important to pair it with your build. I'm telling you, this is the biggest upgrade that you can acquire in that kind of middle part of the game. That's that lull period. That lull period when you're working on your mythic weapon and you're going all in. Getting a legendary piece of gear is so much easier, because remember, one legendary piece of gear is only 3 copies of a ring. So if you were to gain legendary judgment and a legendary other variant of the judgment ring, that's 6 total judgment rings plus some fodder, but that shouldn't be too big of an issue because you're just getting to legendary. Whereas a mythic piece of gear not only requires that legendary ring, but you also need to get 3+3 variants, which not only requires a lot of fodder, okay, but you also need 3 judgment rings per triple +3 ring, and you need 3 judgment rings for the +3 ring itself, which equates to roughly about 18 judgment rings in total. That's a lot. So in that meantime, instead, you just take those 3, right? So now instead of getting 18, you need 21 to get to mythic, because you're going to use those 3 on your second judgment ring, but it's worth it. It is 100% worth it. Because as I've mentioned in the past, this doesn't even necessarily stall your overall mythic progression. And that's the key. Because usually it's the fodder that's holding you back. It's the fodder that's holding you back. Especially if you can get the universal crystals. If you can get the universal crystals, those can cheat on some of the S rank gear pieces. So you don't even need to worry about that. And it also cheats on the fodder. But that combination means that get your legendary ring, get them set up, get your build set up, and then go for your mythic, which is a little bit of a weird kind of different strategy, but that's because of the additional new rings. And this applies to all 3 of the big 3, the top 3 weapons. When you start to go into other builds, it really does, it honestly probably still will be more valuable, but there's so much worse in PvE content that's really hard to determine. Not to mention, if I were to just kind of pull up these the other double S variants, you can see here we've got the Dragon Pearl ring, which gives you, well, that's kind of like the Judgment ring. So you have the Ring of Judgment and the Dragon Pearl ring, which gives you a bunch of crit. And then you have the Julian's Inquisition, which also builds out of the Dragon Pearl ring. And then you have, I believe it's this one here, the Tears Smash, so giving you extra combo and getting extra damage on that. This is mainly for your Helos Warblade, but most people can't be using that because they don't have Raphael, or they don't really want to be going in that direction for PvE content. And the same thing goes for the counterattack build. So this doesn't really apply because these aren't really PvE builds. So really, if you're running Nashir Scepter, Gale Elris, or Sky Splitter, or Aileron Sword, please, 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 please get that Legendary Ring. It's super, super important. It is massive for your build. It's the biggest upgrade that you can get. It's 100% in that middle part of the game. Obviously, Mythic Weapon's still more important, but in terms of just when you're waiting on that Mythic Weapon, this will boost your progression significantly. Go for it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And if you've upgraded already, like I have, let me know what your experience is. And I better slot these gems in before I forget and start going about my day. And I'll see you all for the next one.